Documentaries are about the people that you meet and the stories you can tell. Stories of tragedy, laughter, hope and desperation, across faraway lands or right here in your own backyard. This podcast brings these stories to you, the listener, so that you can experience the adventures of documentary filmmaking in audio form while embarking on daily adventures of your own. Welcome to Barefoot Media's Stories Within Stories podcast with your host, Simon Holland. Danielle Baldock is a former police officer and accomplished psychologist who merged her frontline experience with her psychological expertise to make a significant impact with the foundation of Soldiers and Sirens, an organisation that stands as a pillar of support for uniformed personnel navigating mental health challenges. Through its focus on peer support and community engagement, Soldiers and Sirens creates a nurturing environment for healing and growth, extending its compassionate reach to include the families of those who serve. Danielle's journey, marked by her roles in various organisations and her leadership in mental health care, epitomizes dedication and innovation in service. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you've been running a service.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
So I've been running Soldiers and Sirens, which is a not-for-profit charity looking after people who have ever served in uniform. So that can be first responders, so police, fire, ambulance, or military, or corrective services.
And when you say looking after, what do you mean?
So we've done counselling. So I'm a registered psychologist. So we've done individual counselling, but I wanted it to be more than that. So not just like a normal private practice, but more holistic, you know? So we also had peer support, like peer recovery work, and social engagement. Yeah.
And why is that particularly needed for that discipline? Like Soldiers and Sirens, that's really the front lines of society, isn't it?
Yeah. I think because we work together so much. So if you're a police officer, you work on shift all the time. If you're in the military, you go away and you live with those people and they become your family. And so that's what we're used to. We're used to connecting to people, you know, really closely and building a community, and then it's your family forever, even if you don't see them for 5 years. So we wanted to kind of recreate that. And the sense of camaraderie is the thing that people say they miss the most. And so we wanted that back. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That kind of like locker room banter and smelling each other's socks and like, because if you live with somebody, you just have to learn, especially if you go through something stressful. Exactly. It's having those other human beings around is the only thing that keeps you kind of sane. If you're by yourself, and you're thinking about things and too much, you don't have anyone to share with. That's, really is harmful.
Exactly. Yeah. And also we wanted to, for people who are well, so they might not need any support right now, but if they're part of our community, then at some point in the future, if they become unwell or things go on in their lives, then they've already got that support around them.
Absolutely. And so what prompted you to start it yourself?
So I was working at different places, but I wanted to do it a particular way. So you couldn't find what you wanted in the existing services? Yeah, basically. Yeah. And then, so there was another ex-police officer called Daniel, and he came across from Victoria, and I don't know how, we got in contact somehow, had breakfast, and we were talking about, this gap in the market, that we really wanted to provide something for police specifically, and we sort of had the same vision. And so I was like, oh yeah, one day, in 10 years' time. It's like, no, let's just do it now.
Yeah.
And so
I like it sounds like Daniel. It sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like, and so it happens now or it never happened. Yeah.
So just smashed me with text messages like, what about this? And we could call it this and do that. Yeah. And that was like the energy I needed, I guess, to get it going. And so we just started.
And then Daniel's now on a holiday or somewhere else and you're left with all the work. That's how a group assignments used to work.
No, he's gone on to bigger and better things.
Oh, yeah.
But so we started a Facebook page just to see if it was something that would be interesting, then people would need it in our community.
Yeah.
And it just got more and more and more followers until I think we're 2,800 now on Facebook, plus Instagram and LinkedIn, and starting that community. And we started the coffee catch-up peer support groups, and I started counselling out of a community hall, basically.
Yeah.
And then it just grew from there.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And do you remember the first person to walk through the doors, what you were feeling when that kind of happened? Did you feel like, you're doing a good thing? Did you go, this is...
It wasn't quite like that because I actually left another organisation and all my clients came with me. So it was kind of the same people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so I think that's how you know you're onto something that is a good idea. And I think that's the way the world's going, is if you can't find what you want in an organization that's usually got a hierarchical structure and it goes upper management, middle management, and you can strike out on your own these days and do something that's specifically catered. So did you find like a freedom when you were going out, when you went out on your own?
Definitely, because I had good ideas from other people and other organizations, and those structures were really good, but there was just bits and pieces I wanted to do differently. So to be able to go, let's just do it, was awesome. And to have that social media presence where a lot of organizations, you can't do that.
Yes.
To be able to like instantly give messages to our community.
Yeah.
But that moment you're talking about when the first person walked in, I think that moment was actually when we moved into our office at Osborne Park and we did the door. So we coloured the door with our logo and our colours and everything. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's real. Like, this is actually happening.
It's gone from zero to something. Yeah. Like imaginings to something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good moment. And so I guess the thing, like, so I always am the guy that I would get 3 emails saying like, written warnings for swearing or something like that. But when you're talking to soldiers and police officers with very plain speaking, they've seen people at their worst moments, kind of the worst of humanity they can be dealing with, the people really at the bottom. Yeah. You will need to be plain speaking. So did you get a kind of a freedom from moving on your own with that kind of thing? I
guess so, yeah. So I just be who I am as a human being. And I think that's the best way to do therapy with anybody is to be you and then really, really try to understand what's going on. So if that involves swearing, then that's what we do. If
to relate, involves, if
it involves them telling me the graphic details of something they've been to, then that's okay as well.
Yeah.
And that's part of why we created this organisation too, because those were the stories that we were hearing. So people were saying, I go to a psychologist and I tell them my least traumatic story and they cry.
The psychologist cries?
Yeah. And I don't want to hurt other people, so I didn't go back.
Jesus.
And that was part of why we wanted to say, okay, let's make an organisation where we can hold this stuff for people.
Yep.
And the reason we can do that is we've served too.
Yeah.
So we've been to those jobs as well. We get it. Yeah. And also I find that we build rapport so much quicker, which means we can get that trauma work done quicker because people feel safe already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically what's sort of something, because when I'm thinking of, I haven't been a policeman.
Yeah.
I'm really luckily, I've not had much to do with the police myself, either inside the van. Yeah. But I can imagine some of the things that you see are pretty horrendous.
Yes.
Like road traffic accidents or whatever like that. Can I ask about what some sort of the concepts in the brutal reality for the people that might not have any clue who you're talking to?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you sort of have heard?
So most of the stuff that gets to people and kind of sticks with them is, fatal road crashes and suicides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And suicide is ridiculously common, right?
Yeah, but it's not reported on because...
It's not allowed to be reported on, is it?
Yeah, because I think they're starting to change the rules, but originally we thought there was a contagion effect, and so we didn't want to be talking about it in case, we push people over the edge.
They thought that about like being gay as well, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't wear pink, you'll catch it.
So they're starting to talk about it more now, so that it's not a taboo subject, so people can say, I feel like this, and other people can go, okay, I know some stuff about that now and I can talk to you about it.
Yeah. And also I think being based in Australia and I suppose you're dealing with men a lot as well from armed forces is it's your turn, you're told not to cry. And I mean, that's very useful. Like if you fall off the swings, yes, dust yourself off. But if you've seen something hectic that you can't sleep at night because of what you've seen and you need to be able to talk. And that's probably something that drives that, suicide as a last resort, right?
Yeah. So 75% of our clients are men, which is kind of reflective of those organisations. So 75% of the workforce is men and 25% women. And I think it's that. So I call it detached protector. So which is, when you go to work, you have to be in this kind of headspace where you can handle anything and you're completely emotionally unaffected because it's somebody else's worst day and you're just trying to clean up the mess. But then you never get a chance to sit down later and go, oh my gosh, like somebody died or I saw something horrific or that person was the same age as my kids or, whatever it is that personally connects and have a cry about it or be really angry about it or disgusted or whatever it is. Like you don't do that. You just go to the next job.
Yeah.
And so it just accumulates over time more and more and more until one day, without warning sometimes, people fall over.
Because you've got to ask, like, what is reality? What is society? Like, what the hell is society? When you boil it down, it's a bunch of rules. Like, you know, you say, if someone says you're abnormal or what you think is abnormal, what the fuck is normal? Like, who the hell is it to, like,
totally.
You know, and you guys are seeing things that happen outside the hours of 9 to 5.
That's right. Yeah, all the time, 24/7. And sometimes I listen to stories and I think, you know, like, this is horror movie stuff.
Yeah.
This is stuff you would watch in a horror movie and be terrified. And yet here you are standing somewhere seeing it in real life. And this isn't the first time this week.
Yeah.
Just, I think people don't fathom that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's okay to be overwhelmed with that stuff. And it's not about being super strong or resilient, because you would be resilient to join these jobs. But at some point, something might overwhelm your resources and then you need other people to help you.
Exactly. Because, and a lot of the time when you're talking to try and engage people, you're saying statistics, right? Like you said, 75%, 25%. Yeah. But then, you know, you can say like road statistics, road fatality statistics is on the front page of the paper.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, a number. It's been there for 20 years and it goes up and down. Yeah. I never look at it and go, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think, oh, that looks normal.
Or think of all the graphic, what actually happened in all of those road crashes.
Yeah. Or the family or anything. Like that's just a statistic, but there is a story behind every single one of those.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that gets to people, where they come with this sadness about, this is what I see every day. Is this really humanity at its worst?
Can you give me an example of someone who's gone through, talked to you, and you've helped them out of a place like that? Not, you know, obviously not names or anything like that, but tell me about a circumstance so people, because what we want to do for the people that listen to this, we want to affect them and show that this is a reality that people listen to.
Yeah.
So they can.
There's been a few, and it's funny because sometimes I don't even know. So the other day I got a message from someone saying, I'm not a statistic because of you, and so I'm going to do everything I can to help, you know, and I thought, I didn't know that. I didn't think you were that close to the end, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had lots of people who are barely functioning when they come in, and a lot of it is fear of what's happening for them and not knowing what is going on and feeling like they're going crazy and thinking, you know, especially as a police officer. So you might pick people up and take them to hospital because they're having some sort of psychotic episode, or you take them to Greylands or somewhere, and that's all. So people come in when they're barely functioning. Yeah. You know, so sometimes.
What does barely functioning look like?
So I've had guys who are sitting at home drinking, and that's all they do all day because they've been in the army for, 10, 15 years. They've seen combat. They've got all this trauma. They've had childhood trauma before that. And then now they don't know what to do with themselves. Like the demons are so big and overwhelming that they, are not functioning at all. So we've had people at that kind of extreme. And then we've had people who are still working, going to work every day and doing their job, but they're not sleeping. They're probably drinking too much every night when they get home. Yeah. Might be yelling at their wife and their kids a bit too much. They're having nightmares and flashbacks, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. People who are, self-harming or getting into that suicidal headspace and or having panic attacks, not being able to go to the shops, and just things where they're like, what is wrong with me? I think I'm going crazy. The only mental health I've ever seen is psychosis, And so this means this is happening to me. This is the end of my job, the end of my marriage, the end of everything. And then when they come to us and we say, no, this is normal for what you've been through. Yeah. Suddenly it's like, oh, what? And the other thing that happened out in the world is that we thought you couldn't recover from PTSD, as a psychological community, but you can. And I've seen it happen. Yeah. And sometimes no one's told somebody that.
That they've recovered?
That they can recover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's been big moments where people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've seen it happen.
So what was the pathway, the step to get through something like that?
Everybody's different. So it depends what you need. But I think it's a lot of like psychoeducation at the beginning about this is normal for what you've been through. So I talk about mental health as superpowers. Yeah. That's just my take on it.
Yeah.
So PTSD is functional in combat, as in the symptoms of it are functional if you think about it. Because if you're in combat or you're out on the street, you don't want to fall asleep because that's dangerous. Yeah. Your brain is set up for survival. So it's going to remind you about all of the bad things that have ever happened. As like, remember when that happened? Be careful in case something similar happens.
True.
So there's like your intrusive thoughts and stuff. Nightmares and flashbacks is your brain trying to process all these things. And also like the hypervigilance is functional because you're looking for exits, you're looking for your threats.